Welcome to today's EESI podcast. Our subject today is online training. Here's what you need to know about online training, and we've got some interesting things to tell you about. Our special guest is Steve McCready. Steve's with BLR, one of the premier training companies in the United States. He has over 20 years of experience in sales with 9 years working in the HR compliance and resources arena. For the last 2 years, Steve's been with BLR, where he's learned about and started working with online training specifically. Welcome, Steve. Welcome to our program.
Nice to meet you. Nice to be here.
Steve, what do you think are the three most important issues or trends about a continuous training program for employees? Why is that important?
Three things: retention, blended training, and changing needs. When you talk about retention, the majority of studies show that 2 months after you've finished training, only 20% of what was taught is actually retained, which means you need to continuously reinforce that training. That leads me right into blended training. People learn different things different ways. You may start with instructor-led training, but then you follow it up with an online training within that 60 days. Maybe you follow that up with some other kind of training, a toolbox talk, a pre-shift refresher, whatever, another 30, 60 days after that. But by using different types of training on the same subject, the language will change a little bit from one to the next, and you'll increase the chances of retention among multiple employees. And then, of course, changing needs. I mean, we're in a time right now where there may be a lot of gridlock in Congress, but you have a lot of changes taking place at the state and local levels. Keeping track of those changes and getting them out to your employees is very important. The training you did last quarter may not be appropriate anymore. And being able to do things online means that information can actually be updated as it changes and needs to be updated.
You mentioned earlier toolbox or pre-shift talk. What types of training are those? Explain those to us.
Really, they're designed to be short, 5-10 minutes at the beginning of a shift or at the beginning of the day or the work week or whatever, and really designed to be just reminders. The way I like to put it is, you've done a classroom training, you've done the online training, and maybe it was on protective eye protection. And last week or yesterday, you saw Joe pick up something and cut it on the table saw without putting on his personal eyewear protection. That's a risk. Clearly there's something there, so maybe you do a toolbox talk or a pre-shift training just as a reminder to follow up on everything else you've done, just to make sure everybody's aware and isn't forgetting things or taking shortcuts.
Okay, so these are conversational reminders of things that have already been covered in online training or any other different type of training you've had prior to this moment in time.
Correct. That's definitely how they're most effective. We have some clients that use just those toolbox talks, but 10 minutes before a shift isn't really enough to cover a subject in detail, but it's a great amount of time to refresh somebody's memory.
We've talked about retention, the need for blended training, learning it different ways so they can retain it better, and the pre-shift talk or toolbox talk, reminding them of things you've already learned in training. What are the three most important points that you want to make?
I think first is that training isn't a one-and-done action. It needs to be constantly reinforced. You hit them through different channels. You hit them throughout the year. It isn't something that you can do once and check it off your box, which leads me straight into my second one. Training should be more than just checking off the box to be legally compliant. You want to make sure you're creating an environment where your employees feel safe and secure. They'll perform their best that way. And let's face it, as employers and trainers, we want everybody to go home with all their fingers and toes in one piece at the end of every shift. That's what the ultimate goal of your training is. We want everybody to feel comfortable and secure as well. So it goes beyond safety. It definitely goes into sexual harassment and everything. You don't want to just check off the box. You want to create a safe, secure environment. And then third, think outside the box. There are literally thousands of classroom and online and pre-shift training materials on the market. Everybody's organization is unique. Something right out of the box isn't going to fit every situation. If you're not getting the results you need, ask somebody what else is available. Ask EESI. I mean, you guys have a ton of resources in your partnership with BLR. It may be something as easy as just adding a couple of custom slides to a PowerPoint presentation. If it's online, maybe we need to do something creative, such as maybe virtual reality training on a piece of equipment you have, adding some gamification to bring out people's competitive juices and, really get them thinking about this. Maybe it's a simple adjustment to one of those toolbox talks I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of possibilities, and EEI's partnership with BLR means you guys can quite literally do just about anything under the sun when it comes to training.
A lot of small business owners consider training to be an expense, but really, training is an investment. Can you expand on? In fact, I've heard the numbers are 3 to 1. For every dollar you invest in training, the return on investment is about $3. Can you expand on that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to lead to lower workers' comp claims, fewer missed workdays, fewer lawsuits, more productive employees. If you actually look at the expenses of trying to defend a lawsuit versus what you're looking at from an investment in training, 3 to 1 may actually be a low estimate. It could actually be considerably higher than that, the return. So I think when you're looking at investing in your business, training is one of the best returns you're going to receive.
Is there anything else you'd like to cover, Steve, that we haven't you think that will be helpful to our listeners?
One of the things that makes BLR stand out from most of the other producers of online training out there is that we are a compliance organization as well as an online training corporate company, which means you can be confident that all the content that you receive through our online training is going to be up to date and always current. If something changes from a regulatory standpoint, because we're a compliance organization, we have the editors and the attorneys that see that. They do the analysis, then they notify the training folks, and the training folks will go in and update that training. So what happens is you assign a training now on March 1st, it may be 100% compliant. June 1st, the new law takes effect. We will update that training. So if you assign the same training out on June 30th, June 15th, your employees are going to get the updated training so they remain compliant, which is absolutely huge because, as we talked about before, change is the one thing that's constant in business, and that is one area where we're going to be able to stay on top of it and keep you abreast of all those changes within your training.
Thank you, Steve. Being able to stay on top of compliance and to be able to make changes that are necessary to the training for the employees is huge. We appreciate your time. Your training programs at BLR are a great investment for any small business owner. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
If you're a small business owner and you're listening to this podcast, training is critical, especially in this tight job market. Updating, continuously training your employees, investing in those employees, helping them grow, those are all things that are good for your business and good for the employees themselves. Number 2, it'll help protect your company. It'll keep you compliant, and it'll keep you aware of ever-changing laws, state and federal laws. It'll also help you to remain safe by knowing how to deal with specific situations and how to avoid the lawsuits and problems that come from harassment, discrimination cases. This is one of the most important things you can do is train your workforce. But those training materials can be expensive. But as an EESI client, you have access to more than 500 online courses. If you'd like to learn more about partnering with EESI or about our online training program, simply send us an email at support@eesipeo.com. That's support@eesipeo.com. Or call us at 210-495-1171. That's 210-495-1171, and simply tell them you'd like to learn more about our online training programs. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, part of our continuing effort to help simplify your business.